are the West Ham board waiting for at the moment? Well, I guess, a rhetorical question. I guess I know the answer. That is, they're waiting for results to turn around. They must have massive belief that they're going to turn things around. And I tried to, after the video that I produced last night, to try and put myself in that situation. I think if I put myself in their situation, what am I thinking? Where am I going to get some faith from and some belief? Because I think it's hard to get evidence. There is no evidence. I discussed that in yesterday. There's no evidence that Dave Moyes is going to turn it round. So where am I going to get some faith and belief from? How do I know that we've got the Everton David Moyes and not the Sunderland or Real Sociedad version? What am I looking for? And I think it really is just, as I mentioned yesterday, a false hope that he's going to just turn it around, that we're suddenly going to start winning. Because when you look at it, it must be hard. And I say, putting myself in that situation, when I did that, all I could find myself with was cross with David Moyes. When I put myself at the board's position. First of all, I'm really cross, if I'm the chairman of West Ham, with the Vlasic signing. Now, I try and put myself interested in this dynamic, in particular, between Kretinsky and Sullivan. Because if I'd invested 150 million in a company, and I was due to buy more shares, at that point, Sullivan is answerable to his financial actions to Kretinsky. As I understand it, any transaction over £1 million that happens at West Ham United has to be discussed at board level. I would want an answer. Even if I hadn't been involved with a transfer, I think if I was Daniel Kretinsky, I'd be saying to David Sullivan, what happened with this Vlasic thing? How come we've lost so much money on this guy? Now, at some point, David Sullivan is going to give an answer to that. But I think if I was David Sullivan, I'm thinking, didn't like having to explain myself there. I'd be annoyed with David Moyes. But he's not, because he's still backing him. Right? I think, again, and I looked at it, I thought if I was the chairman, I'd have been a bit annoyed that David Moyes couldn't turn Sebastian Haller around. I'd have been annoyed anyway. Because of the way Pellegrini happened, I've been annoyed that I'd broken the transfer record. Obviously, there was a bigger loss on Felipe Anderson, but I certainly would have liked to have believed that with the outlay and the money that I'd spent, I would have some good players there. And I think, again, even if I'd sort of re-employed David Moyes, even though it's an interesting dynamic as a relationship, bearing in mind because he'd sort of got rid of him once before, I think, again, as the boss, not even to be confrontational, I think I'd be saying with David Moyes, can you not get Haller scoring? He's all right, he looks all right at Frankfurt. Okay. And at the point he didn't, and at the point we made this massive loss, and then he went over to Ajax and started scoring, again, I would have had the conversation. I would have said to David Moyes, why couldn't you do that? I would have said to him, we look a bit silly now, Moyesy. We look a bit silly now. Look like we've lost a lot of money there. Can't afford to do this anymore, mate. Can't keep losing money. Got to get it right for the next one. So he waits and he waits and he waits. He brings Scamacca in. And I think I'd be looking at that again if I was the owner, thinking, why can't he? This looks familiar. Why can't he get the best out of him? Because he can't. And the Paqueta one is a worry. It's a real funny one to watch because Rice was in bad form, and I'll say bad form. Rice was not doing overly well. Rice was one of West Ham's better players going into the World Cup, but he hadn't been at his best. I've done videos on this channel where I suggested that his value wasn't what it was. If you thought we were going to get 100 million for him, it just wasn't going to happen. However, he went to the World Cup, he boosted his value, I felt. So it dipped, and he went to the World Cup, he was back up there, his profile was back up, and it's on the slide again now. The World Cup was good for a few of our players, but in spite of it, because they weren't with West Ham, basically. The other one was Paqueta. I think Paqueta, for myself, I'll speak for myself here, Paqueta was an education in the World Cup, both positionally and seeing how good he was. I was very, very aware that we had signed a good player after watching that, so that was really good. So Paqueta's form had taken a bit of a dip, he hadn't done too well, and you could possibly say his value had dipped. He then goes to the World Cup, he starts playing well, and that did us a favour. So we had a player in form and confidence return back to us. I'll tell you what, it's gone the other way now. As David Moyes does not know what to do with him. He really doesn't. Gio made I saw the thing online as well before Gio mentioned it. If you haven't seen it online, it's this little message or tweet or something that someone's put up out there, and it basically said, watching David Moyes trying to manage Lucas Paqueta is like watching my nan trying to work her new Sky Q box. I mean, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It really is. It doesn't have to be a Sky Q box. It can be, someone that's not good with technology of a mobile phone. They just don't know what to do. And that's what David Moyes like Paqueta. He's got this wonderful piece of new technology. He knows it's good. It's shiny. It's sparkly. It does all the stuff. Don't know what to do with it. It just doesn't know. He's completely confused. He's looking at it thinking, hold on, this ain't Lee Carsley. And that's what it looks like. And I think if I was, again, the owner, I'd be looking at that and thinking, why can't he figure it out? Again, if I was the owner, I'd be looking at this team for some time now, constantly getting outpaced. I was saying to David Moyes, not offering him players, don't you want a fast one, Davey? Probably can't get away with calling him David. Do you know what a fast one? You sure you want this player? Okay, fine. I would say about Paqueta, looks a bit too slow for the Premier League, as it seems at the moment. I'm not saying others. It's funny, actually. I was having this chat with Gio the other day. And I was saying, if Sean Dyche were to come in, I'm not saying I want Sean Dyche in before anyone says anything. But the first thing he'd do, he'd take one look at Scamacca and he'd get him playing like Chris Wood. He'd get a supply line going to him. He would get him up against... I don't know if any of you saw the Man U and Wolves game. There was... Costa up front for Wolves was really trying to target the shorter Man United players. He would get him doing that. And I dare say there are a ton of managers who would come in and recognise what Paqueta is and get him playing. They would just put a system of play in place and they would be drilled. Because West Ham, it doesn't look like West Ham players are drilled anymore. But we would drill a series of attacking, bits of attacking play. And we get the best out of him. I think that would annoy me, the pace of the players. I think it would annoy me what David Moyes has done to Thomas Souček. But I think more than anything, watching the game, on all the games, watching us get bullied against Arsenal, if I had so much money tied up in a football club, I'd be absolutely crapping it at the moment. I really would. Because they sit there, they watch the games. They've even got their own little monitors. Let me take the 2 throw-ins, for example. They were planned. They were set plays. Really simple set plays, by the way. They waited for the first one. He waited and waited until Jorgensen, I forget what name he's got on the back of his shirt. Is it Zanka? I think that might be it. His name's Jorgensen. Big, tall guy. They waited until he was right in a position, took a really long throw. He was there on purpose. That was part of the tactic, for him to flick it on and then for Ivan Toney to get the flick on and put it in the back of the net. That was the plan, and it worked, and it was easy. So easy, they actually had a completely separate throw-in plan for one that's a little bit deeper. That one was planned as well. The guy runs towards the ball, and then he's going to flick it over the top for De Silva to run onto. I mean, really basic tactics. Really basics. I expect my manager, my coach, I expect them to be able to counter that. These are not complicated tactics. They're not things that should be difficult to defend. They're really not things that you should not lose 2-0 to 2 throw-ins. You really shouldn't. And again, I think if I was the owner, I'd be talking to David Moyes and saying, what on earth happened then? What are you doing? Why are we... We've just had loads of time on a training training pitch. Why are we so bad? We can't defend and we can't score goals. What's going on? And for that reason, all those reasons that I've just said, the wasting of the money, the lack of leadership, all the stuff. 12 months, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, of atrocious relegation form. I'm surprised he's still got the support. And then you add in the youth academy, which is unacceptable. Unacceptable. Our players just keep wanting to leave, so they don't feel they're getting a chance. I tell you now, Harrison Ashby would have been an option for some games this season. Even if he is going in January, so what? Use him. Soufal was a really willing runner against Brentford. He's not got the necessary quality. The best crosser we got from the right-hand side, Harrison Ashby. Even if he is going. Are we that good that we can throw away 3 points? I don't know. But I would be... I don't get too focused on Harrison Ashby. It's the whole youth academy. I just looked at it from an owner's perspective. I tried to put myself in David Sullivan's shoes. Look, actually, I'd be completely unhappy at the moment. Yet there he is, steadfast and resolute behind his manager. There is something to be admired there. I mean, it really is. To be so loyal. And I think that is a good thing. Loyalty is a good thing. But then there's just denying the evidence that's before your eyes, and I think that's what's going on as well. I think it's a big call. I guess any call is going to be a big call. But I'll tell you something, if it does fail, it won't just be David Moyes that comes under massive pressure. Because I'll tell you what, the gaze and focus is now firmly on the owners to see what they're going to do next.